Well, I want to welcome everybody to the 2023 Comprehensive Plan LCI Kickoff Meeting of the Steering Committee for the City of Norcross. I'm Tracy Ryan, the Assistant City Manager, as well as the Community Development Planning Director. This is probably the 5th comprehensive plan I've done over my career, and this will be the 3rd LCI study. First time I've ever worked with doing them together, so it's going to be interesting, but we're really grateful that you volunteered your time and your talents and your thoughts for this great project. You're going to be working alongside my staff, our senior planner, Lisa Tavares, and the back of the grant here, Talia Killing, our sustainability planner, Osman Urson from Jacob, and Amanda Hack from Blue Cypress. Ansley Jones from Blue Cypress. Blue Cypress is helping us with public engagement. Then our project manager for this effort is Jim Somerville from Jacob's team. So we've been doing a little background work. We've been doing some key stakeholder interviews over the last month, getting some feedback from people around town, some businesses, some key community contacts. Our council have been through this process. And now this is actually the official kickoff. We did a kickoff public hearing last night for mayor and council, which is required by us under law to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. So we held that last night. It's one of several public hearings that will take place during this process. But aside from the public engagement process, where we're going to be going out into the field, your work with us is going to be very key to this whole process. We'll vet thoughts and ideas through you guys. Vet the rest of the community engagement program. Tonight is one of those nights where we're sort of just going to lay out the process for you. What we're doing, what's going to happen behind the scenes, what our expectations are of you, and lay out some expectations for us. But like I said, we're very grateful that you volunteered your time and your talent to serve, and we want to be respectful of your time. So we're going to sort of jump right into it. We'll do our dead level best to get out of here at 8:30. Gonna head home and relax a little bit. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
All right, thanks, Tracy. Welcome, everybody. My name's Livable. I'm the project manager with Jacobs. If you're kind of like you need to come here and work with us on this. We plan to have like 5 meetings throughout the project life cycle of this, which will go on for about a year, and probably about a month when we're anticipating an idea for what schedule may look like. And we hope this to be fun, interactive, and all that. So you heard about it. I would love this quickly before we get you started to get to know your name, who you represent, and everything. But if you wanted to just go around and tell us your name, who you're representing, and I'm curious to how many of you in the Norcross community you are. So I'll get started different. Sure, right?
Tina Gilmer. I'm a resident and business owner. I own the Lionheart Theater Company, and I've been a resident.
I have a mouthful.
Oh, well, we can go this way going.
All right.
My name is Mika Black, and I've been a resident in Norcross for about 12 years.
Okay.
Kathleen Allen, I'm the chair of the Norcross Development Authority, the city's citywide economic development authority. And my family and I have lived here for about 16 years.
My name is Maria. Lived off and on in Norcross about 16 years. Had my salon here pretty much 16 years too.
Okay.
Marshall Chief, I'm from the Planning and Zoning Board. I've been a resident for 3 years, but I've been a business owner for 25. CEO of Austin Chief.
I'm Layla Gunn. I've been a resident of Norcross for 1 year, and I own restaurants around the Atlanta area for 20 years.
My name is Bob Eagley. I've been here for 7, married somebody who's here for 30. And I'm with the Sustainable Norcross Commission.
I'm Chelsea Yeomans. I have been in Norcross for about 5 years and I'm with the Sustainable Norcross Commission.
I'm Kevin Hill, General Manager for the Crown Plaza. I'm also a Norcross resident. I relocated back to Georgia December of 2020.
Troy Newland, I've been a resident Norcross about 23 years and also a business owner for about 14 years.
Hi, I'm Lauren Summers. I'm a business owner, serve on the board of the Downtown Development Authority, and I've been a resident for about 20 years.
Josh Baer, I'm on the Norcross City Council and on the Downtown Development Authority. And my folks moved me here when I was 1.
Jim Meyer, alternate with the Development Authority. Ralph and Monica White, we took over 45 South, right around the corner. This year, moved over here about 5, 6 years ago.
Well, thank you all so much. Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I say, our plan tonight, let's go to the next slide there. Like I say, our plan tonight is to give you a sort of project overview, try to make a good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish over the next coming year. We'll talk about the public engagement approach, because that to me is what really drives any good project. It's only as good as input we get from you all, stakeholders, and the general public. And I often like to think of the stakeholders of a period, you really like the county board. We'll see a lot of things before we do the public, get your input, make sure we're not putting something that, oh my gosh, don't say that. No. We like to know the landmines before we step on them. And then, of course, we've got some priority discussion. We want to get a little input tonight. So we're actually going to do some fun things with Metrometer. Hope you all have your cell phones, because we'll be doing voting by cell phone. And then, of course, we'll talk about next steps. So we're planning to get you out of here. I'm hopeful it won't take a full 2 hours. Maybe we'll get you out a little early, but we'll see. All right, next slide here. Okay, project overview. All right, so what are we trying to accomplish? These are really 2 projects in one. It's a comprehensive plan update, and it is an update to the Town Center Livable Centers Initiative. So what is the comp plan? Comp plan is a required document by the state in order for a local jurisdiction to be a qualified local government, which means they'll be eligible to receive state funding. So it's kind of it's a very practical reason to have the comp plan. You want to make sure that you can get all those grants and everything that the state has eligible. So it's just good practical sense. It also is a policy guide for making rezoning decisions, as well as capital improvement decisions. And it is a vision-based document. It's all based upon what the community has expressed they want to be like 20 years into the future. And so the work program and everything that's involved in it is aimed at trying to achieve that vision. The town center, our Livable Centers Initiative, or LCI, is a grant program that's actually offered by the Atlanta Regional Commission. Its purpose and intent is to make what I call live, work, play communities, to help reduce the amount of traffic on the roads primarily. I mean, it's actually funded for transportation money of all things. So the whole idea is to make places where people don't have to get in their automobiles, they go around and do whatever. This is an implementation study. This too is an update of a study that was done 10 years ago. And I should say the comp plan was last done 5 years ago. It's required to be 5 to years. The LCI was done 10 years ago, and it's really meant to be an implementation of 2 key problems that have plagued Norcross ever since I've worked with the city. And I've worked with the city. I used to work with Gwinnett County as manager of long-range planning over 20 years ago. I did work for George Jones and Golding. I actually worked on the first LCI town center plan, which was 20 odd years ago. And since then, I worked on a number of other comp plans and stuff with the city. And the 2 things always have been plaguing us is how do you get across Cooper Highway safely, and how do you get across the railroad? You know, both for vehicles and pedestrians. Both of them are very serious safety concerns, and we're going to actually go into great detail trying to find out how to improve those 2 areas. Now, the comp plan is citywide stuff. As you see, the orange boundary that's over here. The town center is this blue area right here in the middle. It's on the south side, or you may say east side, and I've learned southeast. We'll say southeast side. Beaufort Highway, and it includes the town center all the way between Jimmy Carter Boulevard and Langford, and of course some of the older neighborhoods just on the other side of the railroad. So it's that whole kind of core area altogether. But again, through the comp plan, we'll be looking at issues citywide, but that's our primary focus, is what's going on with that roadway. The whole idea is to help foster public-private partnerships. So that's why it's important to have you all, is see if we can build champions in the community, get things going, and try to really sound out, how can we improve safety and mobility and everything that's there. Another thing we're going to be looking at is charging stations. There's a lot of federal money out right now to help improve the transition to electric vehicles. As we all know, that's kind of the trend in transportation these days. So what we're going to be doing is actually doing an in-depth look at, okay, what's the state of the EV technology? Where are the stations? What can we do to help promote that? And where should additional EV stations be put in the future? So that's, again, it's all related to funding and some practical, some practical concerns issues. So it's all about leveraging, trying to get the city in place to get more funding and leverage what, precious dollars we have. All right, so here are the project goals. Again, we're going to try to validate the vision that's in the current comp plan. We're going to look at all the recent plans and stuff that's been going on. And again, it's a very solid planning community. You recently finished, I think, for Highway Master Plan, for example. You got Trails Master Plans, you got several LCI, counts under, not the only LCI you guys have done. So we're going to look at all those plans, of course, the budget, for the planning document, and make sure that it's all up to date in the comp plan. And of course, we'll explore ways to really make that, implement the vision. I mean, again, this is a practical plan. The LCI, we're going to look again at the study traffic operations there across the crossings between highway and railroad. And of course, we'll look at EV technology. And of course, again, we're trying to develop implementable strategies to help you all get funding and make some of this a reality. All right, so it's an integrated approach. The reason we're undertaking both studies together is, quite frankly, it is this part of the middle, which you're really key to, the public engagement. We want to make sure that we get one voice and two things are in sync. The reason the LCI bubble is bigger than the comp plan bubbles, believe it or not, the funding the government receives is much larger than the funding we have for the comp plan. Because the comp plan really is, like I say, a revision of what we think is a fairly well accepted plan. The LCI, though, involves a lot of engineering, and engineers are not cheap. So a lot of the budget's going to help pay for some real in-depth analysis of what we can do with those intersections and EV technology. So that's why that's all shown that way. All right, let's go to the next part here. All right, these are the components of a comp plan. It's really got three main things: vision and goals, needs and opportunities, our definition of needs, opportunities, and community work program. I invite you, if you're not familiar with the current comp plan, it's actually, you can find it on our project website. You pull it down from the city website. And of course, you'll get real familiar with it by the time it goes on. But if you're curious, it's all out there, it's all public. The key elements of it, we deal with everything from land use, economic development, transportation, housing, and of course, quality of life. It is truly comprehensive. I mean, it is intended to deal with the major issues and concerns or the needs and opportunities that identify the public, to help achieve your vision. So it covers a lot of things. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, the vision is expressed in two ways. One is a vision statement, and this is what you have currently now. Norcross will be a dynamic and welcoming community in which generations of diverse citizens can engage, create, contribute, and flourish. Believe it or not, in past comp plans, we have spent meetings trying to craft that. So I hope you all don't want to change too much. But that is the current vision. And it's expressed in the future development map, which we have a printout over there. The future development map divides the city into what we call character areas. And each character area, each of those different blocks in the area have different policies and guidance about how you make zoning decisions, what kind of development patterns you want to see there. So by the end of the year, you should be very familiar with what each of those character areas are and what kind of policies are addressed in each one. And like I say, that we'll be spending a lot more time later on that. All right, let's see here. All right, the traffic operations analysis, so probably the LCI. We're doing the basic three-step process. We're going to be gathering data and collecting a lot of information about ongoing studies, projects, things that are happening in the study area. We'll be talking to people like you, trying to figure out where the issues are, what you see on the ground. Then we'll do a targeted evaluation of alternatives, or we'll come up with a different set of potential solutions. And we will let you all and the public and of course the city council, they're the ultimate decision makers about which of those solutions will make it to the final community work program and we'll go for implementation. So that's our basic approach for that. This is a map of the yellow area is the LCI study area. The little traffic signals you see there are the major intersections we'll be studying on the way along Beaufort Highway, going on from Jimmy Carter over to Lambert.
It's the
Mhm.
Beaufort Highway, the
Red line right
red
here.
line.
Yeah.
What's the yellow?
The yellow dash line is the railroad. So again, we'll be looking at the key crossings of the railroad as we approach downtown area. So, yeah, and here's the list of the intersections. If you're curious, looks like it's kind of bleeding to the edge there, at least not where I'm looking at, but anyway, that'll be the primary focus of what we'll be studying. Okay. One of the cool data sets that we'll be using is called streetlight data. Jacobs, my company, actually recently bought this stuff. It is the premier sort of, data source for, believe it or not, cell phone data. We get all kinds of traffic patterns, all kinds of, there's a variety of sources come into it. One of the cool things is, if you're playing if you download Candy Crush or something on your phone or one of those games, and you have those little agreements, do you agree to da. Well, that's a lot of the data goes here. They actually track where you're going, what's happening and all that. And the kind of information we get is showing right here, for example, this is showing the top routes of vehicles to South Peachtree Street. The height of the ridge is actually showing the higher volume of traffic. So it's not just like a cell phone. We are doing the traditional, traffic counts you get from GDOT and all that kind of stuff, but that is a primary source. This is showing up here, actually, the primary pedestrian routes. Believe it or not, the west side of Beaufort Highway has a lot more pedestrian traffic than the east side. And this is showing the vehicular ABT, where the east side's got a lot more vehicular traffic. So, it's that kind of fun stuff, but there's a lot we can pull from it. And the next meeting actually will be sharing with you some of the data that we'll be able to pull down. It's kind of neat. All right. The EV charging approach, we will be working with the Atlanta Regional Commission, which is, undertaking a regional EV plan. We at Jacobs are actually involved in a lot of EV technology in many, many ways. We're actually working on the Revion plant. They currently coming out of the ground. We also have done several statewide EV plans and stuff for Nevada and that kind of stuff. So we're kind of up on the technology, and we'll give you kind of a state of the technology report back on, because right now we're kind of in that beta versus VHS kind of battle, right? What kind of plugs do we need? What kind of cars? Where are the ranges? I mean, it's very early in the technology right now. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered and thought out before we lay out a lot of money. But fortunately, the feds have a lot of grants and stuff out there right now for this stuff. So we'll be selecting recommended sites for additional EV charging. You have a few around downtown, one right here by City Hall. And of course, we'll help identify what those funding opportunities are to get the additional money. All right. Here's the overall schedule. The plan, well, we have to have a plan done by February 2024. So we have basically a year. That's the deadline that DCA or the Georgia Department of Community Affairs has given the city. The town center really isn't due till October, but we hope to finish it right on the heels of the other one, mainly because it's just more efficient that way. As we get down the road. But if we need more time, we can. We do have it. The public engagement will be primarily taking place in spring, summer, and fall. In fact, Amanda will be showing you a little bit, some little details about how we hope to engage the public. And then, of course, the steering committee has been established, as you all know, and we hope to meet 5 times during the year. So, and of course, we'll be updating mayor and council regularly throughout the session. So they're well, of course, we have Jock here. He can speak for us. All right. Next one here. All right, I'll turn it over to Amanda about public engagement.
Okay, so I want to start by saying we have been very thoughtful about the engagement approach. We have a community engagement plan that we're working with staff to make sure that we're following it, that we're all on the same page. We have goals set for what we're trying to do with engagement, so that we have this operating manual that we're here tonight because we want your feedback. Are we missing something? How can we enhance the things that we propose to do for engagement? Or we want to make sure that everything we're doing is very methodical and purpose driven. And if there's ways we can enhance it, that's the type of input we want to get from you all tonight. So as I move through some of the engagement slides, we'll start asking for some of your feedback. So if you have your phone tucked away, you might want to get it out here in a moment. I want to point out that our engagement, we're really focused on a couple key goals, or a few really. We want to build awareness and ensure everyone in the Norcross community has access to the project. So helping build awareness, people knowing that this initiative is going on, that there's signs about it, that it piqued their interest, that it was interesting. We can't force people to come to the table. We want to make sure that people know this is going on and have some sense of like, oh, the city's involved in a long-term something or a visioning process. So we're building off of the Imagine Our Future branding. We're continuing that if that's been familiar to you, moving forward with it in this process. We are also ensuring that we connect with all the diverse voices of Norcross. And so that's partly what all of you all can help us do. If you have ideas, if your connections in the community, help make sure that your network is aware that that planning process is going on. I know we have a lot of business owners in the group, so helping bring information out through your customers in any ways that you can to help, again, spread the reach of the project. And we also make sure that all the input we're collecting is very purposeful and really has a direct impact. And if somebody knows if I spent 2 minutes here at this booth out in the community and did a survey, how is that feeding into recommendations or the technical work that's going on? So we'll be working closely with the technical team that Jim was talking about beyond land use, also the transportation, the safety, EV, to think about, okay, well, how do we think about that from an access standpoint? How do we collect input that's useful and balances that out? We also know equity is really important to the community, so we're going to be looking at that as well. I know when we were interviewing to help you all with the comp plan and the LCI, one of the questions we got asked, well, like, how do you make equity or how do you make EV charging an equitable conversation? So I think, things like that we'll be thinking about as we look at tools and recommendations that come out and taking really the input we're hearing and applying it. So those are some of the priorities, getting the word out, making sure people have access, making sure input is meaningful and thinking about things from the diverse perspectives in the community. On the screen, hopefully you've been looking at that while I've been talking. These are the different ways that we are engaging with both leaders in the community like you all, elected officials, as well as community members. We've taken the approach of we don't want to hold a meeting at City Hall where the same 10 people show up. So we're really focused on getting out in the community to help get the word out and collect input in a really hands-on approach. And so as a part of that, we are using, you'll see yard signs out and banners to really help build awareness. We're planning to put those out. We've already developed them. You should see them out soon in the community where people are, again, starting to recognize like the city's doing something and drive them to our website to learn more and hopefully participate. Jim's already talked to the public hearings a little bit. We had the official public kickoff hearing last night, and there'll be at least one briefing in the middle. And then at the end, we'll come back and we'll be a presentation in front of both the Planning and Zoning Commission and also another public hearing before the plan is transmitted for regional review or feedback for the community's adoption. I spoke to the awareness building campaign. Not only are we working on these yard signs and banners to have out in the community, but also working with community partners to help extend our reach. So again, you all and folks outside of this room that have connections with different subgroups in the community where we can leverage events that they're having. We can take like materials that we've had at pop-up events or information about surveys, and they can kind of get out to other voices. We have the website, which I alluded to indirectly earlier. This is Imagine Our Future website that y'all, the city has set up for since your last update. So people be familiar with this. Again, this branding, this location, we have updated all the information to make it current. It'll be a very fluid website. We have an outreach list built into the site. We also have a translation tool for languages that we have built in. So we realize the translations will not be 100% perfect, but we feel it's important that people are able to see the content of the site and its full extent. So that's how the website's set up. That's going to be kind of the launch pad for all of the virtual engagement. We have 3 pop-up events, and we'll get some feedback from you all here in a little bit. We are planning for these to be booths where we're very interactively collecting a lot of good input. So almost like a mini meeting at a very vibrant event. We're not planning to just hand out information flyers, but really do some fun and creative ways to engage kids to adults, to people that want to talk for 20 minutes, to people that want to pop by for 2 minutes. And so that's some of the things that we'd like to get feedback from you all on tonight. We're also doing 2 rounds of surveys. So I think that's another area where we can collect some input. We have talked about, can we do more of a traditional, like a Survey Monkey survey that will be again accessible, at least in Spanish. And then also thinking about, is there another creative way we can do a survey that's a little different, whether it's using a map tool, getting feedback on some ideas that we already have, or preliminary recommendations, or some other way. So if you have a survey tool that you love and think would be great for Norcross, certainly let us know. We know about several tools that are out there. On the very end of the project, we have a more traditional open house planned, and we're thinking about, can we do that creatively as well? So it's more fun and festival-like, but really this is a really important juncture of, here are the highlights from the whole planning process. The draft recommendation is really important that we make sure everyone's aware of those, has an opportunity to understand them in a more comprehensive way. So we've got that one kind of more traditional meeting that we, we'll come back to y'all probably few meetings from now and ask, okay, what's the best way to handle this? Should we have it at City Hall, or should we try to do something more creative to perhaps draw more people out? At the bottom, you're seeing the stakeholder role. We already alluded to those, and these are again community leaders like yourself. Already we've completed or almost complete with the interviews. Jim, is that right?
Yeah, we're about 3/4 of the way through.
Who are you interviewing?
Well, we've interviewed all the city council members. We interviewing EDA, the Norcross Development Authority. We're reaching out to again Norcross, we talked with us yesterday. We're trying to reach out to the Spanish community as well.
Do we have any Buford business owners here in this meeting?
In this meeting? Yeah. If I,
Friday residents, business owners, well as obviously port authority representatives.
So we're finishing up this. The interviews are really helpful because when we go out for our first pop-up event, develop our survey, like we will be building off of things that we heard through those conversations, as well as the plan documents and the priorities that we know the city has told us for this planning process, like the EV and the pedestrian safety issues in particular for the LCI. This committee, of course, Jim already mentioned, will be working with you guys 5 times. This is our first meeting. So we'll be coming back to you, and each meeting we'll be talking about next or PI and getting ideas, and hopefully y'all are helping us get the word out and extend our reach. I already spoke to the hearings, but I want to emphasize, which will come back to some of these things. Community partnerships are really a key part of how we're handling engagement and being out in the community. Talk a little bit about public art. We're hoping to help draw people in, leveraging public art, working with the Arts Commission as well to come up with ideas. We have some questions here in a minute to get y'all's ideas on that. So the first thing, as I mentioned, like we're planning these pop-up events. This is in lieu of doing like 1 or 2 more traditional meetings at City Hall. We plan for these active and engaging. Our first pop-up, unless you like, there's a complete opposition in this room, we're planning to be at the Easter egg hunt on April 8th. So in about a month. And then we are looking at where we want to hold the subsequent events as we kind of move through the visioning and the identification of implementation and recommendation ideas. So we've listed out a few ideas here. I think, Ansley, is there a question about the Easter egg hunt?
There is. So straight after this, it'll ask about it's gonna be our first polling question, and let me get this same thing out of the way so you guys can access. So as Amanda alluded to, you'll on your smartphone need to go to the website shown up here, minty.com, and you enter the code. And we're gonna be integrating these polls throughout the rest of the week. So
the number is very small. I'll read it maybe a couple of times perhaps.
yeah.
7942 5344. This is based on my bad eyesight. If I were to back on my computer, everyone else they have better eyesight. So MENTY lci.com.
We have a question.
What is a community center Monday?
So
I think
the,
it's a movie Monday.
yeah,
They're no longer doing them every Monday.
not everybody. So as you see folks filling this out, you'll see the numbers change with each event. So there's one vote for several of these so far.
Has everyone been able to get into menti.com? If for some reason you're not able to connect technically, we can also take verbal input too. We're happy to.
Tracy brought up, that was one y'all did at the last comment.
We did.
The one thing we're trying to do is space things out because I'm seeing not as much so far support on the Easter egg hunt and more on the summer concert series and Viva Mexico and Jude Keith, which those are all, well, Viva Mexico is in
That's May 6th.
May 6th. So that,
So you have April, May, June, and you have things, the other ones are all throughout the summer or the year. Realistically.
When is Georgia City's week?
That's the last week of April.
In April, so that essentially will be 2 events in April.
so again, we're looking to kind of do one in the middle of spring and then another in early summer and then ideally one in late summer.
I believe our next poll is a free response, so you can submit several more ideas after this one. So timing wise, has everyone voted?
We've got a quick question, Ansley. Yeah.
That's actually the next thing coming up. So it's perfect. Yes.
And before we move, okay, before we move, are there any reason, I see a lot of numbers here in the summer concert series and here we kind of had flagged Viva Mexico as one of the events that would be really good for us to hear from the Spanish speaking population and,
These are only city sponsored events. They're not none of the other events that are going on in Norcross.
That's right. I think on the free response, you can submit other events as well, though. I think we just kind of built on what we know the city's already doing, since they have a lot of awesome events. To the free response, so can enter any of these other great ideas here.
while y'all are thinking, so we've got the Norcross Community Market, which we just talked about. One thing I'd love to hear if there's any opposition to the April Easter egg hunt, if there's a reason you would think that's not a good event for us to go to, certainly let us know.
Parents gotta take the time to stop and talk. I mean, it's the
Okay.
running of the kids and then they go home.
Okay,
I don't know. I mean, I've only been to one and one
Okay.
from far because I was trying to go near.
okay,
Yeah, it's pretty.
okay.
Really
So
good.
you think it might be hard to grab people's attention?
I think it would be,
Okay. Any other thoughts on that one?
I think what's nice about it is that it pulls the whole community to it, but I mean, I agree with Jim, but it'd be hard to get people to participate.
Okay, well, our goal is to have a lot of participation when we show up, so I think we can come back to that as a team and talk about it, but if there's a better option.
So it's My kids in college. But I remember when they used to do it at Grafton Park, there was a lot of time waiting around. So maybe if your pop-up is before the opening gates of when they get to go dig in, then you might get some attention, but once they get to, the gates are open, then all bets are off, and then they pay attention to you, but they might if they were arrived early in a.
Okay, I think it starts at 10, so we would want to try to be there 8:39. I don't know how early you get there.
Yeah. But otherwise, they're ready for free for all ones.
Are there any qualifying questions to determine if they're a resident or business owner?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so in terms of when we do get input from people, yeah, no, I think if that's we'll try to get information from folks as much as we can. We normally want to find out what location of the city you live in, but if that is useful information, we certainly ask that. I mean, we would ask it on like a survey. Sometimes if someone has a minute of time, we want to make sure we're, get input versus ask too many questions and they walk away.
And sometimes we use like dot exercises, we might put a map up, and if we're just sort of freely soliciting information, we'll hand them a dot and say, okay, we're on the map. Where are you from? And, we'll always, filter that, how many dots.
So lots of other good ideas on here. Irish Fest, we talked about that. That's coming up a little quick for us. Coffee with Council, Children's Days events and activities, Jazz in the Alley. Is there anything up here that folks feel, that one should definitely be on the list?
Jazz in the Alley is a good crowd.
Okay.
What? Couldn't hear.
Jazz in the Alley draws a different crowd.
A lot of good food for thought. Audiences aren't representing most of Norcross, so that's good to consider too.
Great, okay. When not being used as at pop-ups, where should project banners be placed to raise awareness? So there's a second one for your plan. Okay. So again, we're have like a big banner, at least for now. We're planning to do 3. We're gonna have 2, one that's in all English and one that's in all Spanish, kind of telling people about Imagine Our Future and directing them to the website. And it's having a QR code on it, and we want your input. So we're asking, where should we keep those? Probably will not want to leave them outside. So if they're going to be in a building, either need to stay inside or get moved in and outside. Looks like downtown businesses. So that's something we were thinking would be a great idea to kind of move around the city and get exposure to different folks. Other public buildings. Okay, so like recreation centers is better than sitting at City Hall.
I guess a question. Here. Hold on to one of these banners for a couple of days. We'd be willing to consider.
If you are willing to sponsor it at your business, I think if you could put a star by your name before you leave, that would be great. Or if you know of a business that you're like, oh, they do that, so then we can make it a circle back up.
Again, we've got another free response, so any other ideas be submitted to you.
Our next question, so you're not surprised that where we should put the yard sign. Okay, so Beaufort Highway near Liberty, top of Lillian Webb Park.
Actually, that's library, it's a typo.
The library.
Yeah, and I said it and that made sense that was wrong, and I still
I
said
was
it.
just thinking, right there on Beaufort Highway where the library. what's the apartment complex called again?
Yeah.
That corridor right there, a lot of traffic passes there. So right there on the sidewalk, the property right there by the highways, a lot of visibility.
And we have the yard signs too, so in certain cases it may make sense to use that in lieu. So these may also be good. I mean, we're about to ask about that. We've got Mitchell Road at Price Place. Yeah, all along
Are
Beaver
the
Highway.
banners or the yard signs in Spanish, you said?
Yes, so the banners, we have two, so one's in all English and one's gonna be in all Spanish with the same content, and then in the yard signs will be two-sided, so one side will be English and one will be Spanish. We're noting all the other ones, but we also, we'll keep our meeting moving. So again, here, right now, we're doing 5 yard signs. So one idea is that we can move them around in clusters too. We do not plan to keep the yard signs out well, we could keep them out constantly and move them. I mean, that might be something to think about when we move them throughout the project. Another idea is that we're putting out the yard signs when there's an event going on or activity like a survey, or there's about to be a pop-up event, or we're going to be present at one of the city's festivals or another event we've identified. Parks. Road, Norcross, Tucker, Beaver Rooted, Library, Holcomb Bridge, city events, schools, and Holcomb Bridge, Beaver Ruin Methodist Church.
I have a question. So along with these like physical signs, so are there still like digital like promotions to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be promoting. Have we promoted the launch of the project yet, like the website on? Yeah, so that's something we can do soon, just to let people know it's out, but normally about like 3 to 2 weeks out with a pop-up, we assume closer to the date, it's gonna be better with the survey. We'll want to promote it a lot once it's live, so we'll be working with Tracy and her team and the communications team at the city to make sure that it's getting out.
One place might be digital school board.
Okay.
About that.
They're inside the schools.
Okay.
Plus to the mobile, boards are great too. I've seen in towns that like are on a truck type of, which is mobile, you can move in various locations throughout the weeks.
Yeah, Norcross High Summer Hour and Norcross Elementary all have the digital signs out in front of the schools. I don't know if I can't remember if Beauty Baldwin has one out yet, but at least those school, and I don't know about one on Atlanta.
Is there in the past a hashtag to promote any of this on social media?
That is a good question, and we could do that. I think I will look to the city staff if we imagine our future is just currently. I think we would want imagine Norcross, how to imagine Norcross or something like that. Good question for this group, and we can start making sure it shows up in all the social media. Isn't you have an idea back there looking at me suspiciously?
I was thinking of TikTok. I didn't want to get that out loud.
Okay, but a hashtag would be helpful. And I said town type hashtag.
Not me.
Okay, well, if you have any ideas spinning in your head about this, feel free to talk to us after the meeting or shoot us or Tracy, and yes, we will get on that, make sure that's included. So these are some really good ideas. So we'll coordinate and you will start seeing yard signs out. So if we to look at the floating idea approach or having them out for a targeted area and spread out across the city. We will use all your great input.
I asked a similar question, but back to the topic of demographics, are there questions surrounding demographics, just to make sure we're not having like middle schoolers participating? If it's on the calendar.
No, when we do the 2 surveys, we'll be asking demographic questions, and I think just based on the feedback that we've heard tonight, like when we're at pop-up events, we'll try to come up with like, Tracy was saying, some really easy ways to find out some background information from folks. Because again, we know y'all are a very diverse community, and we would not be doing our job well if we were hearing from people of all the same age group and the same demographic group would be really important part of what makes our cross special. So.
And we're dropping into the digital survey, form, like how are they, like what's the format of?
Yes, we are planning to have hard copies of the Spanish survey. We're translating to Spanish. We will be reaching out to community partners, which is perfect here. If we feel like if one of our community partners feels like something needs to be translated into another language, we'll look to work with them to get that done. So yes, we will have hard
person and hard.
hard copies.
I have a question.
We're promoting the like digital is going to be easier for us to process and hear from more people. Yeah, but we do plan to have hard copies because we want it to be accessible. So if you feel like there's an area of the community that, hey, we really got to get hard copies out to this area, let us know. And we can print them out, have them ready, but we'll, look for you all and again, other community partners that were next for the next week or 2 to help us with that.
Did I understand you correctly that the digital will be Spanish as well?
Yes.
Only the hard copy?
Yes.
Digital as well.
Digital, and we'll have hard copy. I suppose we'll have English and Spanish, so that's perfect. I mean, our goal is to get people to complete the survey. We're going to try to keep it relatively concise and to the point, make sure we ask demographic questions to know who we're hearing from. So it's always a bit of an art, get the right amount of questions to not overwhelm people.
Make sure whatever you build it around a phone platform and not a computer platform. That there's other than just different formatting, but
yes,
it needs to be compatible with this and accessible to that.
We'll keep that in mind. And the website, the platform that the website's on lets us look at it in both formats too. So try to double check to make sure it's looking good in both formats. We'll do that with the survey. So already been talking to this, but we are looking for you all and our community partners to help extend our reach. So again, if you can help champion the project, if there's something we can do to help get the word out or get more people to participate in the survey, or help get people to our pop-up events to participate, please let us know. And we can get you information. Like one really very helpful idea is social media. If you see a post by the city, to just share it on your network, and that really helps get the word out. Again, we can't get everyone to participate, but we can see who's going to the website, who's going to different pages on the website, how much time did they spend there. So we can see, okay, like people are experiencing this information, and then we know how many people are on the survey. So all of that's really helpful. These are some of the groups that we are connecting with. In part through our interviews, but also to reach out to those groups. Again, we're hoping that some of our community partners can show up to our pop-up events with us and help translate if translations are needed, or help get people to the event. We also, when we have an event, we plan to have leftover material. So if we've got another event next weekend, and if we could bring these flyers and these extra surveys, we can bring them there too. So that's what we're looking for. The partners to help with is help be there with us if we can, and then also how can we get stuff through their events and activities that they're doing to help again extend the reach of the project. So here are some groups. There are other, can't list out all the interviewees, but if there's somebody that is really jumping out to you or an organization we should engage with, just let us know now or
PDC. PDC.
Yep, and yeah, and kind of, so you don't have to tell me and yell at me. Yell at me. Actually great.
Brian Jenner from Neighborhood Cooperative Ministries is actually on this steering committee. He had something come up last minute tonight, so he's not here, but he is a member of the steering committee, so they're
Do we have like, survey, like a good amount, like, will we be, like, when we meet, will we be stats where we are? You know, 1,000 good is 10,000, what's good, what's.
Yeah.
We know.
So we can report back at all the committee meetings about metrics we have from the website, from surveys. You know, I think we're also looking for ways to collect input at the events we're at and, you know, what organizations we reach out to. I would say with long range planning, it can be tricky to get people involved. So I wouldn't say there's a specific number. I would say, like in this case, we're really looking to hear from the different voices of the community. I mean, we probably don't expect to hear from like 5 to 10-year-olds, or that we are looking for ways to engage children in the process. Just be thinking about what makes a good community, what makes a good town center. But I think that's what we're gonna be looking at. Do we hear from different age groups? Do we hear from people that represent our different demographic groups? Do we hear from people that have cars, that don't have cars? Especially when we're talking about electric vehicles, like how do you address like people that have electric cars and might have an electric car, but like how does that balance out people that don't have a car? What do you think that directly? So that's more how we'll be like checking our success versus like, oh, we heard from 70% of the Norcross community, because that's not realistic. Normally, you know, if we want that turnout, we gotta like cause a huge problem and then we can get the turnout, but we're not trying to do that process. So lots of good other organizations here. And I know we're getting a little tight on time, so we've got all this track being built for providing that input. And I have just a few more slides, and then we'll move on to our priorities discussion.
You do it well.
Okay. All right. 7:30. I was thinking we were done at 8, but we go till 8:30, so we've got more time. All right, we can talk about engagement. Another 30 minutes if we want.
You get early after door.
I am thinking to the end if you're hearing from me. So art is really an important part of this process. Just from the Arts Alliance, and I know I'm saying that we're good.
Just not here.
One's not here.
Make it
Bummer.
tonight.
Okay, well, we're gonna be calling them this week, Tracy, because they're important. So we have set aside money in our budget to help support our incorporation in the planning process, and hopefully coming out of the process, have some recommendations for your art commission to run with. I would think specifically for the LCI, but maybe from a broader standpoint. So we are trying to use art to engage with people and make it fun to participate, to think creatively. So up here on the screen, you're seeing ideas that we have. The one that we really love, I think we like your feedback on any of these. And I'm making sure our next slide isn't to ask you specifically about these, which it is. But I want to describe a couple. The free art scavenger hunt. Are any of you familiar with that? Happening in the Atlanta region or somewhere else. This is where artists will use like a really tiny or small medium, a very like tangible, like a kid could and they'll do like a small amount of art on it, and normally have something where like pin me on you know, LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok, make a video of me with my art on TikTok, what this man would do. And then it helps give that person something to be a part of that artwork, and then also helps promote kind of that creativity in the community. So we would be looking for ways to use Imagine Our Future and work with local artists. It could even be kids at the elementary school to create these art pieces. And typically what happens with this type of thing is you put them out in the community and you make a bit of a promotion about it on social media, and then it helps bring awareness to the planning effort and also brings art to it. So there's a lot of different ways we can fit it. We feel like that's a really affordable approach and a good way that we can engage with artists in the community. So that's the one we're most excited about. I think some of these other things are a little more straightforward. So a photo or other art media contests, and that's something we could do over social media as well. We've done that in other places. Some creative visioning and put activities that we could do at pop-up events or even as far down as the open house. Before we've had artists sketch out ideas as people are talking about them, and then you kind of end with like the free spirit of the community and what we're envisioning. Kids activities, there's lots of things we can do with it. So if we're out there and the weather's nice, we will plan to have talk and bubble, whatever, Tracy and the team approved, but some different ways to really kind of bring spirit to the planning effort. And so we want your other ideas, and we'd also like feedback on some of the ones we posted here. But like I said, one of our next calls after this meeting is to the Arts Commission to see what ideas they have and how we can work together. And certainly if you know are on the Arts Commission, which no one is, and have ideas, let us know beyond that and what we hear here. So we are asking for which forms of arts-based engagement do you support?
Yeah, and I'll mention the scavenger hunt idea, something that in other communities has been called Free Art Friday. We don't necessarily need to stick to a Friday. So
We could
that's
do it like 3 times in the planning process,
Yeah.
or during phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or, do it once. That's one of the ways we thought would be fun to pair with the Easter egg hunt, is potentially doing the art out, if we are allowed there.
stickers, and other small media like that.
So it looks like we've got some support, at least for everything. I think the coloring activities with children, I see that's kind of on the lower list. Did anyone have concerns about that one? Or just the other things seem like they would be more effective? I see one nod, so I'll go with the nod in front of me. These other methods may be better for getting helpful input. Chalk walk. And then the next slide, because we are following a pattern here, is what other ideas do you have for incorporating art? We would love to create a ginormous mural. I don't know that we have the budget for that, and I'm not sure how well, how that might get. But anyway, we're open to creative ideas and exploring them, and with the goal of building awareness and excitement and capturing the spirit of where y'all want to be headed as a community.
You're certainly welcome to email us ideas after the meeting if you think of something. Oh, that's a cool one. Wildflower seed package.
Artist partnerships with local art galleries, museums, okay. A color run 5K, that's fun. That sounds like a lot of work, but gave that idea and want to help, but how to make that happen. Got some people we can reach out to, children's art museum that rotates their work, art from the senior center, adult living community, mental mapping exercise. So those are some of these things are like we could give some instructions and some resources and hand it off. And so I think these are some really great ideas where we can really extend our reach, but it's not a huge list to do it. So this is great. Partner with the Norcross Library. Okay. It's paint a city parks maintenance vehicle. Yeah, I like that board at the library where people can add their art exhibition. So that ends our discussion of engagement. I think we got a lot of great feedback from you all. Is there anything else we're thinking we're going to cover on the community engagement side? Any questions? Okay. Well, I think at this point I'm handing off. Jim, are you helping, or Ainsley's gonna run with the card? Okay. All right.
All right, well, we've got several more polling exercises, so don't put your phone away. Really, the remainder of this part of the presentation is to hear from you all, and what we're doing is pulling some of the information from the last two comp plan and the LCI plan. Just to review, what were some of the main goals and outcomes of those plans? And are they still relevant today? So in the 2019 comprehensive plan, there were several different priorities expressed by community members throughout the process. So we've grouped them into buckets. The first slide here is our quality of life bucket. So what we're hoping is that you guys will rank these in order of importance to you. Got maintaining and enhancing a sense of community, small town feel, and level of services as development continues. Ensuring quality long-term housing is available to all residents and newcomers at attainable price points. Uniting the community across cultural backgrounds and socioeconomic status. Building strong neighborhoods with unique public amenities. And attracting young families. Cool to see the order flip around as more people submit. As folks are submitting, does anyone have any feedback on these priorities that they would like to raise for the group?
I'm conscious of the fact that the people here in the room are not Hispanic. So,
Right.
we're not getting the full scope of our community's input when ranking. So I hope there are opportunities for the whole. Now, we're not just the ones ranking these, but this is part of what you're doing in the survey, when you're actually going out and talking to residents of Norcross.
That's absolutely what we would like to do, is through the survey and the pop-ups, reach the Hispanic population. I had a great call with Louisa the other day about some ways we can engage the Hispanic population. One idea is putting flyers at grocery stores, with QR codes to access the survey or the website. So that's something we'll pursue, as we talk to partners and see how we can get out there.
I'm concerned with the fourth one, the housing, just making sure that all of us are aware of the conditions and we're getting feedback from people in need and not just people that have nice.
That's a great point. Perhaps yard signs near, apartment buildings, hearing from the population. So our next kind of bucket of priorities is about economic and infrastructure priorities. So the 4 we have for you to vote on are supporting projects to address multimodal transportation needs and traffic congestion. Preparing for and leveraging a potential transit station near 85 and Jimmy Carter. Growing local businesses and attracting new ones, particularly in target industry clusters, which we'll get into a little more on a future question. And then increasing and enhancing the selection of unique local shops and restaurants. I think these will be really helpful for the town center study, the local business and multimodal transportation needs rising to the top. That's a good question.
It's gonna be down twice, it's gonna get voted down again. Probably waste our time on that.
May not be voted on.
But
It may not be voted.
may not even be voted.
One thing I might chime in on is that these are, of course, priorities from the 2019 plan. Like there may be new new priorities or different priorities, or some of these priorities go away. So that's what we'll be, soliciting. We want to recognize y'all have, from our understanding, and that it's generally supported. So we imagine some of these things will move forward, but we may have different priorities pop up that rotate.
Tracy, which comprehensive plan covers go all the way out to
What you mean, mention the character?
Where one that there's a lot of comprehensive plans that are on the list on the.
The LCI.
Goes all the way out to.
Next category is about public services. So the four here are partnering with schools to offer holistic services and improve perceptions. Implementing sustainable practices to improve quality of life over time. Leveraging emergent technology through smart city strategies to improve public service delivery. And providing excellent city services and engagement opportunities for people of all linguistic and cultural backgrounds. Key themes that have come up a lot tonight, so this is great to kind of see what's a big priority for you all. So I mentioned an industry cluster question would come up again. So this is sort of thinking about economic development and which types of industries you think Norcross should be promoting, bringing more businesses in these different sectors.
Question's gonna ask you if there's other industries. So this is building off of the current. Right?
Yeah. For technology and innovation to continue. The other two are getting a lot of votes as well. Are there other industries you would like to see in Norcross? Sorry about that. Guess while we're on this one, does anyone want to pause and think about where these types of industries would make sense around the community, or any feedback like that?
Well, there's a couple of office buildings run by themselves that are pretty big. Like where street corners behind us.
It's definitely something we'll dig into more as the process continues. So. And now we're asking about which outcomes you see as essential for this plan update. I know the text on the screen is pretty small. Hopefully it's a little easier to read on your phones, but I'll read them aloud. We've got supporting quality affordable housing construction, determining appropriate locations for greater density housing, aligning with other existing plans, retaining employment centers, improving Beaufort Highway pedestrian safety, implementing EV infrastructure downtown, furthering city's sustainability goals, and incorporating art into public engagement.
So the definition of affordable housing is that you are spending no more than 30% of your income on your rent or mortgage and utility. That applies to everybody at every income level. So we need to be careful in how we use this phrase, because I don't think that's what you're asking. I think you're asking at a certain level of AMI, area median income. Is it 100% of AMI below that you're talking? Are you talking 80% of AMI? It helps to define that, because otherwise you're not getting an answer that, you're getting an answer that is subjective to every person in the room, because they don't know that definition. And you're not getting an accurate understanding of what people do and don't want in this community.
Okay.
And I say that as somebody who wants affordable housing that is affordable at all levels. And what we have the biggest gap is 80% of AMI to 0
Okay,
in Norcross.
thank you. That's really helpful. No, I appreciate the feedback. Highway pedestrian safety coming up. How concerned. Housing density is up there too. Anyone else have any feedback on these outcomes or other outcomes you'd like for this process to achieve?
Ainsley, could you explain, is this coming out of the current comprehensive plan or are you?
Most of these are either coming out of the current plan or they're ideas we've been hearing from the interviews so far. The pedestrian safety on Beaufort Highway and EV infrastructure and the art, that's all stuff that was pretty, settled from our scope of the city. But that's why those appear up there as well. So the heavy question. So any emails after the meeting are welcome on this one. You might need more time about it.
There's one more question after this about housing types, just to give you context. There's. Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Jen, would y'all like to weigh in on this? Is there a discussion on changing the train crossings? So they believe there are options that don't require trains to horn as much.
They're not. Yeah.
Half of other horns, don't you? Ow. I believe.
Or during the death scene in the theater.
And Tracy, one question that came to mind when I was seeing everyone's responses, there's a lot of stuff on bike. Does the city have a bike? Bike friendly.
Share the result of that. We're trying. A lot of it, like.
Existing laws about like.
I put, I would love to bring a golf, take a golf cart from my house down off Mitchell, but I don't know if that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the chances of going from East Norcross to West Norcross on golf. We are looking into. Golf cart ordinance.
Yeah, well, thanks for all the ideas on this one. This is awesome. I think this is the last question for this section about housing types, because this is something that's come up a lot in the interviews and just wanting to learn about preferences for different styles of homes that you might want to see more of in different parts of Norcross. So again, this is something we'll continue digging into throughout the process, but just kind of an initial question about what types of homes are you interested in?
What is a single family conservation?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So basically.
All of this.
Got a lot of support for smarter home, or sorry, starter homes on small lots. Then take it away from you.
So this is our tentative schedule of upcoming meetings. Our next meeting is on May, when we review the existing issues, like I say, we'll get a technical report from our engineers about, all these issues we've been talking about. In August, we'll talk about implementation options. We'll try to come up with some ideas of how to solve some of these issues we come up with. October, we hope to talk about the draft community work program, 5-year work program going to the future, and actually come up with some hardcore recommendations. And then, of course, the final one, January, is where we're gonna have a draft. That's where you'll actually see, how do we, now we've got a plan, how to do it. So go to the next. So the big question we had when we were setting this up, it's Tuesdays or Wednesdays for this kind of meeting. This is obviously a Tuesday night. You all aren't able to make it, but we had a few, I know we had at least one member of the group who apparently teaches Tuesday, not possible for her. So we wanted to pose the question of Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and you can guess, we have a Mentimeter question coming up. What works best for your schedule, Tuesdays or Wednesdays?
Question, for Wednesday, at least one of those, I was trying to check them all, but at least one of them conflicts with the sustainable Norcross commission meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Service. We'll probably have to be somewhat flexible because we do have board members who are assigned to this committee as well. So maybe I'm gonna.
Fourth Tuesday.
Thursday.
Wednesday's out. It may be, I was gonna say, like work when free. Wednesday.
I was thinking really the second one.
We up there on Wednesdays.
We have, okay. So it sounds like Tuesday is for. Yeah, if you go back to the previous slide again. So yeah, so this would be, that's based on the Wednesday. So yeah, it'd be the day before that. So May 9th, August 8th, October 10th, January 9th. If there are any serious issues with those dates, please let us know. I mean, we can move them around. Obviously, we're next month ahead.
I think as far as FTP goes, like all of those. Right. Are we gonna shift FTP meeting or? Well, are we not?
I'm saying we're going to do the Tuesday. We'll do the Tuesday before, it could be the day before the date. Yeah. So the second Tuesday, basically, if that works. Okay. I see a thumbs up.
We do, but we meet the fourth Tuesday, so it's not no issue for us.
Okay. All right, we'll send out, a general email, see if that causes any heartburn for those who aren't here in particular. That's the biggest issue. And I think, like you're saying, it's probably important to see if we can find some more representation from the staff community. Yeah. We'll work on that.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, are there any places for us to go look at that have done something like this type of project, located in that, what I mean?
In terms of like pedestrian improvements and process and all, cool. We'll look at it. Yeah, I'm sure there are. That's a good point. We'll yeah. We can do that. What explored some might be the future highway master plan? Or some option shop for part of that effort or no? Well, probably next meeting, we'll see what we can actually maybe the third meeting for that, since we're talking options at that point. Yeah. All right. Okay. So do you prefer in-person or virtual meetings, or hybrid? We actually, tonight's kind of a hybrid because we did on Zoom, right? So someone could have interacted if they weren't here physically. But, you know, I think that's one thing, the pandemic, one good thing about the pandemic is we might get in this virtual meetings. It's like, maybe it's not good. But it saved a lot of gas, I could tell you. Do you know how many people voted Ansley on these? I always kind of, more afraid we'll cut it off too quick and.
Right.
So it sounds like in-person is kind of preferred. Of course, I guess we always have the hybrid option if we're here, right? Not virtual. All right.
On the back end, I'll be able to tell at the end of the night how many votes we got.
All right. Well, we'll deal with that later, but it sounds like you guys prefer to meet first. There is something about that dynamic of seeing people's expressions, how they move their arms, and all that fun stuff. All right. Exactly. All right. So that's a lot of information. You know, this is how you can reach me or Amanda. If you have any questions following up and stuff, has been reported. My understanding is people could vote after this session. Is that right? Yes, I know.
Yeah, we can set that to be open.
For those that weren't able to make it.
Yeah,
here.
we'll
Yeah.
email that out.
See what's going on. So, the library, what questions do you all have? I mean, you all been a very engaged group so far, but I'm sure, like I say, it's a lot of stuff.
Conversational, it's don't always just be sitting there with your phone. Well, it's
Exactly. Sure.
Most people are, I know there's a question, I want to make sure I make this announcement. We're gonna circle up on the first pop-up event based on all the feedback we got, set the date. Once we set it, we would like to send out a sign-up sheet for anyone that would like to help facilitate, help that. The more people we have there, if it's a good event with lots of people, the more fit. That more activities as well. So that's
right. Even if you can't attend, make sure to focus your network, your family members, you share it on social, just so to exposure. But definitely, everybody's welcome.
Questions, if you don't mind. The first one, are you guys utilizing like Facebook ads to solicit feedback?
I know through our communication.
My second question is, do you have any access to rideshare data?
That's come up before too, and we're exploring that. I don't have the details yet, but I have asked our engineer to that question. But it came up in our interviews. And it's a great question. It really is, because in many ways, particularly as transportation changes, and you've heard about the emergence of autonomous vehicles, that sort of stuff. How you design a city and how it works is very much like rideshare. You need places to pull off, people load in, places to park, the whole thing. So having that kind of information will be very enlightening just to see sort of how the travel patterns have changed, how they've influenced. The weird thing is rideshare has actually decreased that since the pandemic, mainly because I think people are kind of scared of getting someone else's car and catching something. But
Price of Uber has also gone up.
yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if it comes back over time as we forget about the pandemic. But hopefully we can. But that's a good question. Yeah. Anything else? But we're actually doing really good.
And I guess maybe, and some of you have noticed that for our board, to appoint to the committee, some people noticed the alternate. Jim and I have had some thoughts about alternates coming to the meeting. We invited everybody to this particular meeting just so you could see the focus and projects we're going to flow. But the role of the alternate really is to be there when the primary appointee can't make it. In some instances, primary appointee may no longer be able to serve on their appointment committee, and the alternate would step in to fill the notice your alternate said each time to come to the meeting. Everybody's always welcome, but tonight would probably be the only night where we would ask primary appointee plus their alternate from board or commission to vote on any of these questions. So if it happens that, you know, a board commissioner authority members here and the alternates here, probably going forward, the alternate wouldn't necessarily vote, or maybe you would concur with your primary as to, you know, what the answers to any, you know, survey questions might be. So that's just explains sort of the role of the alternate. We do expect, you know, our board commission authority members might not always get board members.
Well, if there's nothing else, you can get pretty much back in your night. You can. Yeah.
Water here.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Kathleen, how are you? Good to see you again. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. We're here to talk about it.